This is for girls that are attracted to black guys. So if you're not girls that are attracted to black guys, then just keep scrolling because it's irrelevant. I'll give you a second. Okay, now that they're gone. Okay, so I just need to know how you reject white guys because I feel so bad when I do it. The other day, this white guy Snapchatted me and he was like, hey, do you want to hang out sometime? And I was like, yeah, sure. Can you send me a picture of you? Because I didn't know who he was. And he sent me a picture and he's white as can be. And I'm like, I can't. I just can't. It's not my fault, okay? So I just didn't answer him. And now he's Snapchatting me 20 times and I just don't know how to tell him that I will never date him because he's white and I can't date white guys anymore because I'm so stuck on black guys.
Very good and thorough advice.
Hey.
Howdy.
Did you just say howdy to the new guy?
That I did. I don't know why we need to keep reliving it.
Why don't you just talk to him? I'm sure he's perfectly nice.
I'm sure he is too, but I have a long history of, what do you call my past relationships again?
Unnecessarily complicated, exhausting for everybody, the opposite of good?
Yeah, those things. Which is why this time I'm gonna just take things slow and wait for the right end. How does she...
Hello, YouTube. Hey, folks. This is just something random. I think I'm going to start doing some random thoughts because I get random thoughts throughout the day. And since I have to give more content, not only to YouTube, but also to Patreon, I think I'm going to just start recording some random thoughts and some more like mini rambles, I guess. But I was actually looking at Twitter and they're advertising this, I guess it's new NBC show. I guess it's a pre-trailer to kind of get whether people are actually going to like the show or not. So I guess it's cheaper to actually film the, not trailer, but what do they call it? When they call it the trial episode. I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, it's supposedly a new trial show that they're trying to figure out whether it's going to be popular with people or not. And it's called Zoe's Playlist. It's a silly thing about this introverted white woman that's a programmer, and something happens to her, and now she can hear people sing. In other words, sing this random songs about how they're feeling, almost like a TV show that turns into like a Broadway musical. It's weird kind of shit. But anyway, that's not the part I want to talk about. She's an introverted kind of pushy, snarky programmer, right? And she works at this programming firm, IT firm, actually ran by women, which is strange because we all know that IT is dominated by males. But like I said, this is Vagina Vision. Anyway, she's this kick-ass programmer, and she's got a best friend who's kind of ambiguous. He's not gay, obviously, but he's like her sidekick. He's like her soy boy sidekick, where she's the alpha. She's almost like the alpha male, or the hero of the story. And he's like her best friend, her cheerleader, which makes him kind of ambiguous because he has to be soft enough to be dominated by her, and he's got to be strong enough to kind of hold a semblance of male frame. And what triggered this thought was I was listening to a little bit of Jason Black, The Business. I'll put the link in the description about Generation Side Chick. And, when Jason Black starts talking game, I'm like, you know what? His politics, I like. His views on the general population, I like. When he started talking game, Jason Black is a little bit more female-centric, let's put it that way. But that's neither here nor there. What the interesting thing is he was talking about how weak males are. And this particular scene, I know this is going to be a little long, but this particular scene in this show shows the white soy boy pumping up his female counterpart as they walk into the office. And just for a second, this tall black dude in a blue suit comes walking by, and he's the new guy, right? and she turns her head and to look at him, and they talk about how she can't get involved with the new guy because her relationship's end badly. So this black dude just got to the firm. He walks by. He doesn't even know her from Adam. He doesn't even look at her, but she's already projecting her relationship with him or an attraction to him. And like I said, most of the people in the office are like plain vanilla. And this dude walks by in a blue suit in a tech firm, right? Which is highly unusual for people in the tech field. They're not normally flamboyant. But it got me to thinking about how black men are raised and how white boys are raised now. We talk about the suppression of the black male image and how, in particular, the boys have been kind of like feminized as opposed to white males. White males have been feminized, but white males have been feminized in a different way. And I'm noticing that the way that white males are feminized is they're turned into vanilla, what I call vanilla ice cream. In other words, they're not like ineffectual. They're competent. They make money. They're educated. But the women want their white males to be drones. They want them to be financial drones. They would still want them to wield power, but they want them to be a different kind of beta male orbiter. But black women want their black males to be sexual objects. Like in the black community, educated lambs or soy boys like the white guy would not be tolerated. They wouldn't be accepted. In other words, they don't want their black boys or their black men to be vanilla drones or worker bees. That's why they're not as educated. What they want them to be is male concubines. That's how come, as O'Shea said, it's swag juice or Negro juice. And that demonstrated it, that America is turning black males into this powerless male concubine that's sexually objectified by women. And I've noticed that since the 70s, when Ken Norton was playing these slave movies called Mandingo. And Mandingo was this sexual alpha that was desired by white women, black women, and white men. A lot of stuff that Tommy Curry talks about in his book, The Man Knot. And feminism has just increased that outlook that black males are not to have political power or economic power, but they're supposed to be suppressed and actually used as bodies, as concubines, as cuckolds, as almost like human dildos. And just for a second, I saw the difference. The way America views white males versus black males, even in this feminist environment. Even today, with the way my son was raised and how the women tried to raise him, and even how the younger kids, my grandsons, are being raised. With my son, it was more important into how he looked and how he danced and how attractive he was to women versus how effective he was in the world. They cared less about what was in his head than what was on it. They wanted to make sure that he had the right haircut and the right look and the right clothes, then the right skills to survive. Even today, it's still the same way. My son is actually better at taking care of his child than my daughters are. He's actually a better mom, a better parent. And I think that's sad that my son is a better parent than my daughters. You would think that the maternal instinct of a woman would make her, especially for small children, a better parent. And that has turned out not to be the case. I don't know what millennial women are on, but being a parent is not one of them. And a lot of that, I think, is feminist socialization, of them trying to turn women into men. But that's neither here nor there. But the thing is about them wanting their boys to have the right haircut, the right look, the right clothes. I see that a lot. I see that a lot with young boys. I see that a lot with my grandsons. Because we've had hell and high water trying to have the little girls, not the little girls, the women in the family cut the little boy's hair. Remember my grandson, when he was little, I felt so bad for him, right? Now, a little girl's supposed to grow up learning how to do hair, right? That's one of the things that little girls, since they're so interested in hair, when my mother, even my sisters, when they were coming up, not as much as maybe my mother's generation, but my sisters, they grew up doing each other's hair or fiddling with each other's hair. And they used to have little hair parties where one girl would do their friend's hair and vice versa. And they would learn how to do each other's hair. They would like to learn how to take care of their own hair, right? Even my ex even got her hair license because she loved doing hair. And all her friends, there's a bunch of them that became beauticians because they grew up doing hair. They grew up doing each other's hair. It was just one of those natural things. Men, not so much. Like the boys that I was around, now we went to barbers and stuff like that. But the thing is, we didn't grow up cutting each other's hair. Okay, we didn't grow up fiddling with each other's hair. That's not a man thing. At least it wasn't a man thing when I was coming up. And all little boys got their hair cut short because little boys didn't like to sit still and they didn't like their hair fiddled in. They wanted to be outside running around when I was a little boy, right? Even the little boys that I helped raise. Okay, I only have one son, but I've helped raise other little boys. First thing we want to do is when they're little, we get their hair cut because they want to be outside. We don't want to be fiddling in their hair and them squirming and struggling while somebody does their hair. But the little girls, well, that's natural. You put the little bread bucket for them to play with, and the women would sit down and braid their hair and put their hairs in ponytails and all kind of little stuff. The little girls are actually suited for that, right? But there's been this trend amongst millennial women to turn in their little boys into baby dolls. And my eldest grandson, I used to feel so sorry for him because his mother did not want his hair cut, and she would let his hair grow. But the thing is, even though my ex is a wonderful beautician and wonderful at pressing hair and doing hair and all that other kind of crap, she never passed those skills on to her daughters. Got two daughters that can't do their own hair or anybody else's hair. They simply can't do it because those skills were not passed on by the boomer women to their daughters because they were socialized to teach their women to be more like guys, to be more independent and more successful, and the men less so. Because it actually really started with the greatest generation, with the greatest generation and the silent generation. And slowly but surely it started to just trickle down. And this decay is what it is, and the Z's are probably worse. But the thing is that I used to feel badly for my eldest grandson because my daughter didn't know how to do hair. So basically my ex and my mother, who's like 80 years old, used to take hours to do his hair. And he would have to sit there twice a week while my mother would wash in oil and braid his hair because my daughter didn't want it cut. She wanted him to be pretty. She wanted to dress him like a baby doll. And my youngest daughter followed suit. In fact, today I was looking at my youngest grandson's hair, and he's 5, and he has never had a haircut. He's never had a haircut, and so he walks around in pigtails because he's never had a haircut. And we're constantly on my youngest daughter to have his haircut. But they're so focused on the little boys being pretty. And by the same token, they are not interested in educating the little boys. Even my oldest daughter's a little bit better at it because I stay in her ass. But she's more interested in how his hair is cut because, the funny thing is that my oldest grandson didn't have his hair cut till he was almost 5. And the reason that they were forced to actually start cutting his hair, him getting a haircut, is because there was a little boy in class, in his preschool class, his kindergarten class, that asked him if he was a boy or a girl. Because of his hairdo, he was in long pigtails because my mother didn't have the chance to style it in a particular way. But he was in long pigtails. And the little boy asked him, "Are you a boy or a girl?" Because he had these long ass pigtails that were halfway down his back. And right then and there, my daughter panicked because she didn't want my grandson to be classified as gay. And then she finally went out and did the right thing, was just cut his hair, which he was relieved. At first he didn't like it, but he was relieved because now he didn't have to sit down for a couple hours while my ex or my mother actually oiled and combed through and blow dried and put his hair in pigtails. Is something that can be managed. Black women, especially black women today, care more about how a man looks or how attractive he is, what his sexual market value is, rather than his economic market value or his competence to lead. You have turned your boys or your males into concubines. You have turned your black males into side dudes. And when the black males try to break out of this pattern of being a side dude, of being a concubine, you come back in and try to reinforce that, which I thought was odd, or still think is odd. It's very strange. And now that other women say, hey, wait a minute, we've turned our men into worker drones, economic drones, and they've been squashed into this vanilla mold. You know, if you look in tech, if you look in business, if you look in all this kind of stuff, all these white men have been squashed into this vanilla mold, this vanilla drone, because white women couldn't take over if they weren't. If you look at a lot of white guys, they look like soy boys. But black men, we have not been allowed to be what we call soy boys. Soy boys have to go to another culture to be accepted, because a soy boy or the vanilla drone is normal in other cultures, but in the black culture it's not accepted. If you're not sexually attractive or try to be sexually attractive, then you're going to have a hard time with black women. So basically, black men have been forced to be more sexually attractive, sexually appealing. And that is the negative side of the black community as far as black men are concerned, because it handicaps us. But on the other hand, it also makes us chosen sexually by other women. And now the fences are down. Guess what's happening? Your boys, your young men are being chosen by other groups of women because you have made them attractive to other women. You have crippled your boys to the point where they're not effective because you want to keep them as concubines. You don't want them as beta male orbiters as far as economically, but you want them as sexual beta male orbiters so that you have choice. And you cripple them so they're not economically attractive to most other groups of women. So it's interesting that you've turned them into what you want or forced them into a pattern that you want. And you thought that you crippled them so they would not be wanted by other groups. But guess what's happening? That's not true. And now you have this angst that this thing that you've done to your black men is now backfiring. And this is probably one of the reasons why SYSBM, or Save Yourself Black Man, is so scary, because you know what you have done. And you know that your white co-workers, your Latina co-workers, your Asian co-workers have said that they are sexually attracted to your men. You've heard those whispers, and now you're afraid because now the fence is down, and they're not just whispering it to you, they're actually whispering it to your men. Interesting turn of events. Just random thoughts. My editing is going to slow down because my main machine has had a issue with the SSD, so I have to get that back up and running. I really hate editing on my laptop, but you know what it is. If I have to do it, I got to do it. But you know, editing on a 14-inch laptop sucks rather than a 32-inch display. Had to do that for 3 months when I was living someplace else where you had to edit on a 14-inch laptop. And let's put it this way: it's not the worst, but it's like wearing shoes that are like a half size too small. Okay, every time you walk, your toes hurt. But you know, we'll struggle through it. But with that, I'm gonna jump off of here. This is BGS out, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.